we play a game?
Why, yes. I believe we shall.
Oh, I got a live one here.
Live from Little Rock, it's Shane Plays Radio, Geek Talk Radio, a journey into the things we love. Thanks so much for joining me. I'm your host, Shane Stacks, and sitting in the producer's room in there, ably keeping things going, is Mr. Zach. So I'll be bantering with him here in a moment. Also got a really cool guest for you today I'll introduce here in a moment. He's calling all the way in via Skype from Brazil. He's actually returning to the show, but this is the first time he's been on just as him being the guest exclusively. So look forward to talking to him here in just a moment. Let me throw out some housekeeping notes. First of all, please remember that this is talk radio. This does go out later as a podcast, but it is first and foremost talk radio. It's geek talk radio. It's talk radio just like sports, politics, religious talk, any of that stuff, but it's geek talk radio. So feel free to call in or tweet me if you're listening live. You can call me at 501-823-0965. That's 501-823-0965. Or you can tweet me at Shane Plays. That's ShanePlays. And I do try to monitor my my Twitter stream during the show. Sometimes I miss something, but I usually try to keep an eye on it. And if anybody from the RPG Codex is listening, hey, glad to have you on. I just posted the live stream on the Shane Plays LPs and interviews forum thread there. So maybe some folks are listening there. I know they'll catch it by podcast, if not live. But guys, feel free to post in the forum, and I'll try to get to your questions if you have any. So also remember, there's always a show notes and links for each show up on shaneplays.com. That's ShanePlays.com. And that's got notes for any news items I talk about, any guests. There's links to my guest and his project up on there. So it's at shaneplays.com. And we do go out as a podcast 2 or 3 days after the show. Usually this week, I don't think I got it out till Thursday. Just a crazy week. But this show does go out as a podcast after the fact on my blog at shaneplays.com. It goes out on iTunes, Google Play Music, and Stitcher. It's also, I put it up on YouTube. Go to youtube.com/GoShanePlays. A lot of people listen that way. And also, last but certainly not least, we are carried a week delayed on Krypton Radio. KryptonRadio.com is SciFi for your Wi-Fi. And of course, we do broadcast over the air, 96.5 FM The Answer in Little Rock. And you can go to 96.5 FM TheAnswer.com and listen to the live stream no matter where you're at in the world. So, having said all that, going to introduce Felipe. Are you there?
Yes. Hi.
Hey, welcome back to the show. You're on, I think in November, we were talking about role-playing games, and it was supposed to be a larger topic, and I think it came down, we ended up just talking about the games we thought were good and were bad for computer role-playing games, but you're a part of a forum, including, there was Matt Barton with Matt Chat, and then my friend Johnny Wood, who's a computer game, role-playing game developer. But I've been wanting to have you back on to talk about your CRPG book project, and that's what we're doing today. So thanks so much for being on all the way from, and tell our listeners where you're at again.
I'm at São Paulo, Brazil.
São Paulo, Brazil. And I saw a tweet earlier today. Now, you didn't take a 4-hour bus ride just for this, but you did. You said you had to kind of take a 4-hour bus ride anyway, and while you're there, you're also coming on the show, so I appreciate that. What kind of, on Twitter, what kind of cattle were those? Those were some pretty big cattle.
Oh, those were Zebu cattle.
Okay.
They are the ones from India.
Yeah,
as
okay.
opposed to the ones from Europe you normally see.
Okay, yeah, they were pretty big. So, and then also, I see that you're about to move to Japan. Is that correct?
Yes, I was back at the farm that my mother owns just to say goodbye, and I'm moving to Japan at the end of the month.
Wow. So I actually lived in Japan for a couple of years in the early 90s. It's a fascinating country, so I hope that you enjoy it. So, but I imagine we'll still stay connected on the Codex and Twitter and all that while you're gone. But
sure.
I do wish you safe travels and success and whatever the move, whatever you're moving for. I hope it is successful for you, sir. And Japan is a fascinating culture. So
thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. So I'm going to throw out a real quick news item out there. And I'm going to say hi to my producer, Zach. And I don't even really, I did not program a news segment today to give us more time to talk about your project in computer role-playing games. I'm just going to take a couple of minutes here, throw out one news item, and talk to my producer real quick, and then we will get rolling with your computer RPG book project. So, Zach, I'm not going to do a news theme because I've only got one news item, but it's very important to let our listeners know that today is free RPG day. It's not free computer RPG day, it's free tabletop RPG day. So there's a link on the show notes, or people just go search for free RPG day. You can go to their website, and there's a retailer locator that will show which friendly local game store in your area is supporting free RPG day. And it's literally free RPG day. I've gone a couple of years in a row. You walk in, and in your friendly local game store will have all these products that are free. You can get dice, you can get adventures, you can get quick start rules for games, you can get other swag. You walk in, and most of them will let you get up to 3 items, but I guess it's up to the individual game store. So, and I want to give a shout out, of course, show sponsor Game Goblins in West Little Rock on Canis and West Bowman, or Bowman and West Canis. They're participating, and they're having events over there today. They're actually having games till like 10 o'clock tonight. So get on over to Game Goblins. Remember, they're a show sponsor. I really appreciate their support. I worked with them last week to have role-playing games for the first time ever at the River City Comic Expo. We ran like 11 games and 38 players. It was a lot of fun, a lot of different systems, not just D&D. I ran Numenera, a lot of fun. And then, so make sure to support my show sponsor. But if you're in the Jacksonville area and you can't make it over to West Little Rock, don't forget that the game store out there at the old Hastings on Main Street, they've taken over the old Hastings. They're also participating in free RPG day. So folks, Amazon's great, the internet's great, but you got to support your friendly local game store because they've got products that you may or may not be able to find, on Amazon. And, you can go in there, meet people, play games. You can't, as cool as Amazon is, you can't play games on Amazon. If you go into your friendly local game store today, you can play a game. So make sure to support them. But that's Game Goblins in West Little Rock, show sponsor Game Goblins, and then also the game store in Jacksonville are supporting free RPG day. So, Zach, I was going to tell you that the lovely Sheila and we watched 10 Cloverfield Lane last night. I liked it.
Yes.
I liked it. Have you seen that yet, Felipe?
What? Sorry?
Have you seen 10 Cloverfield Lane yet, the movie?
No, sorry, I didn't.
Okay, well, I'm gonna spoiler here a little bit. So, did you see the original Cloverfield?
Yes.
Okay, so J.J. Abrams said that they're blood brothers. These movies are blood brothers. Okay, so I'm gonna spoil. The movie's been out for a while. It's out on DVD now. So if anybody doesn't want any spoilers, plug your ear for 30 seconds. I wanted, Zach, when she got out, I wanted to see Cloverfield go lumbering by. I wanted to see the monster.
I never watched Cloverfield.
I did.
I never seen it
That's
before.
what I wanted to see. Now, I'm not going to say what happened.
Yeah.
But the Cloverfield monster is not in it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some loose connections between the movies. You got to go see Cloverfield, man.
I love 10 Cloverfield Lane. That's arguably my favorite movie of the year.
It's a great movie.
It's an awesome movie.
It messes with your head.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They really do some twist on you. John Goodman was great in it.
Mm-hmm.
I like the guy that played Emmett too.
Yeah.
There is, you basically had 3 actors for the whole movie. They all did a great job.
GL saw it last week.
Yeah.
He loved it.
I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
But the ending was good, but I wanted the Cloverfield monster to go lumbering by. That's what I wanted. So that's all I'm going to say. Yeah. It's good. And then, so another thing, Zach and our special guest from Brazil, I watched for the first time in over 10 years. I watched The Matrix again yesterday. Have you seen The Matrix, Zach?
Of course.
What about you, Felipe?
Of course.
Yeah.
I love that movie.
I hadn't seen that in over 10 years, and I was afraid it wouldn't hold up. But there was a couple of scenes where the effects you could tell are, older, but the movie itself holds up really, really well. And I remember going to see that in the theater in 99. I didn't have a clue what I was going to see. And that movie blew my mind. I don't know if any movie's ever going to blow my mind like The Matrix did. So anyway, it held up. It totally held up. And I love the scene at the end where Neo decides to stand his ground and fight Agent Smith instead of running. That was just sweet. So anyway, all right. That's enough of me babbling. Free RPG people, go check out Free RPG Day at your friendly local game store. All right. So what our guest has been working on. And I've got the notes on the show note, but Felipe, I'm just going to let you go ahead and introduce us. Why don't you tell us what you've been working on, your special labor of love here for the past few years?
Okay, so for the past two and a half years, I've been working on a free ebook on the history of computer role-playing games, all the way back from the first games on the Plato mainframes and all that, Rogue, beneath Apple Manor, to the most recent ones. Over 300 games.
Wow. Yeah, it looks like that and people can go to crpgbook.wordpress.com. That's also linked on the show notes at shaneplays.com. It is in what's called the preview 4. So the final version, I guess, isn't there, but there's a 350-page preview people can look at right now. And
yes, I'm doing almost like a software release. I do a alpha build, and then another alpha build, and when everything is done, I will release a beta build, so people can read, see if there's any trouble, and if little mistakes I can correct, so I can do a final release, and then maybe go for a print release.
Wow. So that was one of the questions I had for you. This will eventually be, hopefully, a print release.
Yes, I hope so. Even if I have to do a Kickstarter or something like that, I want to do a print release. But since it is a collaborative project and is all doing for free, I want to do a print release that is at cost price, very cheap.
Right. Okay. Well, I mean, I think that I can't see how a Kickstarter like this wouldn't succeed, especially since you can already show that, hey, this is the quality that you're going to be getting. The book already exists. We just want to do a hardback version, or a paperback version, or whatever, hard copy print version. And am I correct in understanding that as of right now, it's 350 pages and 200 reviews? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And how many more do you think? How many more reviews do you think will come in before the quote unquote final version is released?
Something around 280, 300.
Wow. That's a lot.
Yes.
This is definitely a labor of love. So you've been working on this for 2.5 years.
Yes.
All right. So before I get into why you're doing this book, why don't you tell us a bit, why are you personally so into computer role-playing games that you would work on something like this for 2.5 years? Tell us a little bit about your history and how you got to this point.
It is a complex history because, you see, I am Brazilian, and here in Brazil we have a problem that in 1964 we had a military coup, and one of the things that they did is very interesting to explain this. One of the measures from the military dictatorship was to implement a market reserve on computers. So for over 20 years we could only buy Brazilian computers, and we couldn't have international computers like Apple, Commodore, any of those, and we couldn't have software coming from the outside. It was illegal.
I was not aware of that. So what?
Yes.
And what kind of operating systems was it all Brazilian software, Brazilian?
No, it was all like you see in Russia and in the other communist countries. We weren't communists, but we were make clones. We had Apple II clones. We had the Spectrum clones, all clones, and some of those MSX, those
right,
old
right,
computers.
Right.
And we had only those with very basic software, no games at all. It was illegal to have. But my father was a computer engineer, and he managed to smuggle a Commodore Amiga into Brazil in the late 80s.
He smuggled an Amiga in.
He smuggled an Amiga in.
How does one smuggle a computer in? I mean, is it like in the middle of the night he's meeting some guy like in an alley, or and I know I'm making fun of a serious situation, but how did he actually do this?
He never told me the details, but I think you simply bring along and you have a guard that is your friend, or you make some friendships,
right,
and you can bring stuff in.
I got you.
But the thing, there was many illegal computers smuggled this way. They were very rare. But we managed to have a few games like that, and one of those few games was an RPG, was Betrayal at Condor. And I couldn't even read English at the time. I couldn't understand. But my father played that all the time. He loved it. And it was the first game like I had a real contact with. Not, I mean, besides the Super Nintendo and the NES that we had here, they were legal. The Nintendo Entertainment System was legal, but the computers were not. Yes, because the NES, they had this thing that it was more of a toy, you know.
Right.
So the first time my father started playing those RPGs, he played some others before. I think he had Pool of Radiance too. But it was an illegal copy, you know, those stories. But I became fascinated by those games. And the sad thing was, since it was something extremely illegal, extremely rare, I had no one to talk about those. Only me, my brother, and my father played those games. And it was like our thing. In Brazil, buying computers only became legal in 1994.
1994.
So you understand,
okay.
We lost almost the first 20 years of RPGs and computers and everything. We didn't have any of that. So it was like something very special to me that I'm very fond of, those computers, those memories. And I kept playing, you know. He was a computer engineer, so when the market opened in 94, he began to bring computers in, and they were extremely expensive here in Brazil in the 90s. But I had one in my living room. My father allowed me to play, and I grew up playing those games. But never had until, around the 2000s, when internet became popular here and I registered at the RPG Codex, I didn't have anyone to talk about those games, you know. I play games like Fallout and Baldur's Gate. I played alone with my brother. You arrive at school and talk with other children. They didn't have any idea what these games were like.
Right. Wow. Wow. So okay. So I wasn't expecting any of this. So this is blowing my mind. You know, in America and maybe other countries or whatever. You have, like, I was a geek growing up. Back then it was a nerd, not a geek, right? I was a nerd.
Yeah, I was a nerd too.
Yeah, and, so we had sort of restricted social circles. And so when you met somebody else that liked D&D or computer games or comic books, it felt special. And that's part of my love for games now. But nowhere on you literally... it not only was it special to you and something you love, but it represented a secret freedom that other people maybe didn't have.
Exactly. It was like something very personal to me, something important. Like, I have this thing that no one have around me. And you cannot imagine when internet arrived and I began to talk with other people in forums, I played this game like Baldur's Gate and I made those games were full of secret. Like, it was fantastic. Like, I made the Karsomir, the Holy Avenger, and it was fantastic. Then one guy will post, did you know that you could make it, I don't know, +7 if you had this item? Oh my God, there's so many secrets in these games. It was like something really magical at the time to me.
Right. That is, that blows my mind. So, okay. So in 94, the market opens up. But the dynamics, the politics or whatever in Brazil change, and the market opens up, and then even though they're extremely expensive, more people start buying computers. So did you? And I know that you said you found the RPG Codex when the internet came around, and that introduced you to a whole community of people like, wow, so I finally get to talk about this stuff. In that intervening time before the internet really let you talk with other people, were you starting to at least meet a few other people in Brazil, or were you just completely, you and your father and your brother, kind of isolated in your love of these games until you got on the internet?
People began to play other games, like the console games. I remember when Final Fantasy VII came out, it was a huge explosion when Pokemon came out. But you have to understand that computer was something extremely of a luxury. Like, in 94, when the market opened here in Brazil, we have an inflation of over 1,000 per year. It was insane.
What, 1,000% inflation?
1,000% a year inflation.
Wow.
Like, this is what we mean when we live in the third world. This is the kind of consequence that has.
Wow. That is crazy. That is crazy. Wow.
Computers only began to break into children and other people playing in the 2000s when the LAN house, the cyber cafes, the internet cafes began to popularize.
Right.
And it exploded with Counter-Strike. Everyone was playing Counter-Strike in 99. Yes.
Wow. All right. Well, hey, let me do this is fascinating. I did not know we were going to talk about this. Is, I mean, we're documenting history here, not just for you, but also Brazil. That's fascinating. We're going to take a break real quick. I got two different breaks I take during the show. When we come back, anything else you want to tell us about what it was like, in Brazil? Would love to hear about it. And then we'll kind of get into what you're doing with your book. Maybe how people can help. I know you're still looking for volunteers and that sort of thing. And again, we're talking about the computer role-playing book project, which is a labor of love with my guest, Felipe from Brazil, and many other volunteers. It's already in a pretty amazing form, and it's not even final yet. And we'll talk more about that when we come back on Shane Plays Radio, a journey into the things we love.
Comic book lovers, visit thewildstars.com today. From the mind of author and comic book industry expert Michael Tierney, it's not just a comic book, it's a comic book novel. The Wild Stars is sci-fi and so much more. Learn the explanations behind UFOs and space gods. This isn't the Twilight Zone. This is the region of the Milky Way galaxy known as the Wild Stars. We guarantee you've never read anything like it. The complete comic book novel took 20 years to tell, with one reviewer noting, the story of the Wild Stars stretches ambitiously across space and time, from small-town murders to the destruction of planets, with every event given multiple layers of meaning. If you haven't read The Wild Stars, you're missing out. Visit thewildstars.com today.
Megawars.net.
The classic online space strategy game has returned, bigger and better than ever before. Scout the universe and claim your empire. Construct, customize, and launch dozens of different starships. Battle thousands of opponents online in a team-based competition leading to the ultimate Battle of the Galaxies. Grab your slot today for the only online game where tactics and strategy still reign supreme. Visit Megawars.net and get options only available in our special pre-sales previews running now.
Megawars.net.
The die is cast. Plunge into worlds of fantastic adventure where dragons lie and the undead stalk the shades of your mind's imagines. Where creatures of legend plunder wealth through the horror of their passage. Monsters grim and foul hold the ecstasy of gold and the renown of glory. All this and more awaits you and your friends in the unlimited, fantastic world of the Castles and Crusades role-playing game from Trollord Games. Visit your friendly local game store or Trollord.com to get your copy today. A rules-light, adaptable game that has stood the test of time. 12 years in constant publication with no new additions. Castles and Crusades is the original, easy-to-play attribute check system. Join us and unleash your imagination. Visit your friendly local game store or Trollord.com to get your copy of Castles and Crusades today. Shane Plays Radio is blessed to have sponsors, and we appreciate them very much. However, did you know that you can also support the show as an individual for as little as $1 an episode? Simply go to patreon.com/Shane Plays.
And we're back. Shane Plays Radio, Geek Talk Radio, a journey into things we love. Thanks so much for listening. If you're just joining us, I'm Shane Stacks, your host. This is Geek Talk Radio, and this week we're talking with Felipe from Brazil about his project, the computer RPG project, which is a labor of love. It's been going on for 2.5 years now, and himself and many other volunteers are basically documenting and reviewing, and in its final product, it'll be up to 300 computer RPGs. So before the break, we were talking about his history in Brazil, which totally blew me away. I wasn't expecting that. I just said, hey, so why do you love computer games so much, or computer role-playing games? And he talked about what it was like to grow up in Brazil, when basically computers were illegal, and kind of what it was fascinating. So if you didn't get to hear that, make sure to catch the podcast version of the show here when it goes out in a couple of days and listen to that. It's absolutely fascinating. This is one of the reasons why I love meeting people and doing stuff for the show. I just, it brings deeper meaning. It's like, yeah, we're talking about computer role-playing games, and yeah, it's fun, but this is actually bridging cultures, and in some ways brought him and his family kind of a happiness or a joy they would have had in their life. They wouldn't have had in their life otherwise. So that just blows me away. So here's what I'm going to do. I know you said don't worry about it, but I feel like I'm mangling your name. So I want you to tell our audience, just say your name so that it's said at least once correctly on the show, if you don't mind.
No, don't worry. It's Felipe. Don't worry.
Okay, Felipe. Okay, so, I'm sure you've heard this from other Americans, but, I love your accent. It sounds very, very cool to be talking to you. So, but anyway, okay. So you went through everything you went through in Brazil.
Yes.
Finally you got connected on the internet, got into a larger, community of people who shared the same loves that you did. Now, so how did that go from, I know you do reviews on like Gamasutra and stuff like that. I've got the links on the show notes for your Twitter and your Gamasutra blog and the computer role-playing game ebook project, which, subtitled Sharing the History of Computer Role-Playing Games. Currently at 350 pages and 200 reviews, but growing. It's not in its final form yet. How did you transition into wanting to do this project?
Well, you see, besides role-playing games, I really love old music, especially prog rock from the 70s, And one thing that I have that I really like are those compilation books. You have a few there, like 1001 albums you must hear before you die. You know those books?
Sure, yeah.
And I have a lot of those on music. But you don't see many of those on gaming. You see many lists on the internet and things like that, but they don't talk about the album. They make a list, and that's it. So we, at the RPG Codex, we began to make voting to see which were the best RPGs of all time. And when the list was done, it was such an interesting list that I thought, okay, but what does it mean that, let's say, Arcanum was the 5th best RPG of all time? Just hearing that, you can't understand what that game means.
Right.
So we began a second phase that we ask people to review the game, to write very short reviews. Like, okay, Arcanum is the 5th best game of RPG of all time according to the RPG Codex. Why? Then we made a list with the 70 top RPGs of all time. Each of those had a very short review talking about why this game is important and why you should play. And it was a huge success. Like, everyone started sharing. We had a lot of views on that. And I thought, this is really cool. And with this, I can expand. Like, I had already 70 reviews. So I could expand this to a book or something more, definitive. Something that people can share around and read. And I thought, okay, I'm going to turn this into a book. And it became very humble. Like, I have 70 reviews here. I'm going to add a few more, because the RPG Codex have some particularities when voting. So we had a list of the most important RPGs of all time, but we didn't have Diablo, for example. And I thought, okay, I have to add these games. And I began, okay, I'm going to take the 70 games, add a few more, and it began to growing. I'm going to ask people to review it, maybe ask some famous people, some developers. Then Chris Avalon said, okay, I'm on board. Then Scorpia from Computer Gaming World, I managed to email her, and she agreed to take part. And the project began to grow, and now it is like this. When I began, I thought, I'm going to finish this in 6 months. Now it's already 2.5 years, and I'm still going, but it is a joy to work on this. I really like.
There's nothing like a labor of love.
Yes.
It's hard, like, in some ways, the show I do is a labor of love, even though there's a bit of a business side to it, but it's still a labor of love. And it can be really hard, but there's just a satisfaction and a good feeling about it that's hard to get any other way. So you mentioned, some more higher profile people being involved. I did see that Chris Avallone, he's done some reviews, if I'm understanding this right.
Yes, he reviewed the original Wasteland.
Okay, and then I see Tim Kaine is mentioned in the list. Yeah. And then I see that Crooked B from RPG Codex is in the mix, who's, I think that...
Yeah, she's helping me a lot.
Right, she's the editor-in-chief at RPG Codex, or was, I think still is.
Still is.
And there's several other people from the RPG Codex who are contributors. Like when I look to these names, are these a lot of codexers?
Yes, more than half of the people that are helping me are from the Codex. And I think this is really nice because if I came from out of nowhere and say, I'm going to make a book on RPGs, this would never go away. This will never work. But since I've been now for, I think, 7 or 8 years on the RPG Codex, so there is this community. It is a huge forum, but it has a very tight core community. And these people now, we are coming together to create this book. I think is very interesting to have all these people giving their opinions, and you have different line of thoughts on why this game is important and why this game is more important. It's like you had all this. My idea when creating this book was to take all these discussions, like not only there are the reviews with very different people offering their opinions, but I also show like, this is some of the most interesting mods for this game. If you have any problem running it, you can try using this patch. I'm trying to gather all this knowledge that is scattered around many forums, websites, long dead links, and try to put it together on a single file, on a single PDF, so then people can access that. And having all these different voices from developers, fans, journalists, and people on the Codex is very interesting. I think is an important part of all that.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Well, listen, I'm going to definitely. I mean, everything you're saying is, is important if you're gonna do a project like this. So, you're definitely not doing it halfway. What I see when I pull up the preview for, I'm looking at it right now. People can go to crpgbook.wordpress.com, and there's a preview version they can see. I mean, it looks as professional in how it's laid out, and with the screenshots and the captions and the font and the typesetting. I could see myself picking this up in the bookstore and saying I want this on my coffee table or whatever. So
I have the advantage that I'm graduated in advertisement, so I had graphic design lessons and all that.
It shows. So this is definitely high quality. So got a couple of listener comments and questions. First, Crit Importunus via Twitter said, "Hey, I hope you save lots of that tasty farm life food to go. Nothing beats that fresh food." So I think they're talking about you heading to Japan. So they're hoping you're taking some of your farm food with you.
No, those are pets.
Yeah, I don't guess you can smuggle one of those big cattle on the plane and take them with you to Japan. But what other? Now you said that was your mother's farm. What other? Is she just cattle, or what other? Does she raise any crops or?
No, we plant orange there.
Yeah.
And since she's a veterinarian, she brings in very animals to breed there. So let's say you have a horse that is pregnant. I don't know the female from horse in English. Sorry.
Yeah, horse. Horse.
You bring the horse to the farm, then it will have the young baby, and
right.
She, as a veterinarian, she will take care of it, it will feed, because this is the most delicate part, you see, the birth and when it's very young. So it's more like a maternity, that very
right.
different kind of animals are brought there to breed and to take care of the young.
Right. I imagine that your mother's farm is an important place for the surrounding area. With that, I'm guessing it's more of an agricultural type area. I could be wrong, but it sounds like she's pretty important.
It is. Yeah. Rural Brazil, very.
Right.
It's not like. And I grew there with an Amiga. You can imagine how isolated I was.
Yeah, that's amazing that worked out that way. I also have a question from Mustad on the thread on RPG Codex. He said, "Can you ask how far the book will go in terms of modern years? I see 2014, but will it stop there? I can understand that you can't continue adding to the book as it'll never be finished, but is 2014 basically the cutoff point?"
I'm torn between cutting off in 215, because then if you take the first RPG that we officially know when was made, the first D&D was launched in 74, right?
Right.
And then the first CRPG that we know of is Pedit 5 from 1975. So if I cut off in 2015, then I can make a book like the first 40 years. It's a nice cut-off point.
It is a nice round number.
But it depends on how much time I take to finish the book. But it's true. The sad thing is there are so many interesting RPGs coming out now that I feel very sad about leaving them out, Well,
you can always,
let's see.
You can always do Revenge of the CRPG book project.
Oh, so, this is a book. This is interesting to sell because I intend to keep this book updated. Not every year, but every 5 years or so. Because once this core is done, I have the first 40 years. It's very easy to, every 5 years add the most interesting games and update the past reviews. So this is a project that I intend to, as much as possible, to keep updated.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, we're going to cut to another break. Before I do that, Nail, I think that it's Nael from RPG Codex, said that a baby horse is a foal. So that's,
thank you.
Yeah, a baby horse is a foal, Foal. So, okay, we're going to cut to a break. When we come back, I want to talk to you about, how can people help? And is there, if you're Captain Ahab, is there a Moby Dick of reviews that you just can't get? Like, I want this game reviewed for this book, and I just haven't been able to do it yet. It's the elusive review that I just can't harpoon no matter how hard I try. So, I'll give you a chance to address that if you want. When we come back, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, it'll be more with Felipe and his CRPG book project, which is sharing the history of computer role-playing games. And it's currently in a preview version. It's online, and he hopes to eventually do a Kickstarter and make a print copy out of it, which I would kickstart the heck out of. I would definitely support you there, buddy. So I'm going to throw some love to our show sponsor, Game Goblins. We'll cut a break. When we come back, it'll be more about the CRPG book project. Game Goblins, some goblins are your friends. Game Goblins is Central Arkansas's premier retailer of Magic the Gathering, Warhammer 40K, board games, card games, RPGs, miniatures, and hobby accessories. Call Game Goblins at 501-224-GAME or visit them online at gamegoblins.com. Conveniently located at 1121 South Bowman, right on the corner of Bowman and Canis in West Little Rock, and staffed by friendly employees, Game Goblins has expanded their store size, and there's plenty of room for exciting inventory and tables for play space. You'll like that space because Game Goblins has gaming events every day. For all of your gaming needs, I heartily recommend Game Goblins. Make sure to check out their customer loyalty program that rewards you based on your actual purchases. Game Goblins earns your business and keeps it. First-time customers, mention Shane Plays and receive $10 off your purchase of $50 or more. Call Game Goblins at 501-224-GAME or visit them online at gamegoblins.com. And don't forget, today for Free RPG Day, they have events going on till 10 o'clock tonight, or they're open till 10, and you can swing by and pick up some free RPG product. Take us to a break, Zach.
Comic book lovers, visit thewildstars.com today. From the mind of author and comic book industry expert Michael Tierney, it's not just a comic book, it's a comic book novel. The Wild Stars is sci-fi and so much more. Learn the explanations behind UFOs and space gods. This isn't the Twilight Zone. This is the region of the Milky Way galaxy known as the Wild Stars. We guarantee you've never read anything like it. The complete comic book novel took 20 years to tell, with one reviewer noting, the story of the Wild Stars stretches ambitiously across space and time, from small-town murders to the destruction of planets, with every event given multiple layers of meaning. If you haven't read The Wild Stars, you're missing out. Visit thewildstars.com today.
Megawars.net.
The classic online space strategy game has returned, bigger and better than ever before. Scout the universe and claim your empire. Construct, customize, and launch dozens of different starships. battle thousands of opponents online in a team-based competition leading to the ultimate Battle of the Galaxies. Grab your slot today for the only online game where tactics and strategy still reign supreme. Visit megawars.net and get options only available in our special pre-sales previews running now.
Megawars.net.
The die is cast. Plunge into worlds of fantastic adventure where dragons lie and the undead stalk the shades of your mind's imagines. Where creatures of legend plunder wealth through the horror of their passage. Monsters grim and foul hold the ecstasy of gold and the renown of glory. All this and more awaits you and your friends in the unlimited, fantastic world of the Castles and Crusades role-playing game from Trollord Games. Visit your friendly local game store or Trollord.com to get your copy today. A rules-light, adaptable game that has stood the test of time. 12 years in constant publication with no new additions. Castles and Crusades is the original, easy-to-play attribute check system. Join us and unleash your imagination. Visit your friendly local game store or Trollord.com to get your copy of Castles and Crusades today. Shane Plays Radio is blessed to have sponsors, and we appreciate them very much. However, did you know that you can also support the show as an individual for as little as $1 an episode? Simply go to patreon.com/Shane Plays.
Hey, welcome back to Shane Plays Geek Talk Radio, a journey into the things we love. I'm joined by Felipe from Brazil, and his project is Labor of Love, the computer RPG book project. So, and we're actually, we have a guest caller coming in that I think you're going to enjoy talking to, Felipe. I'll let them ask their question. They had messaged me, and I said, why don't you call in and ask them yourself? So they're doing it, so I think you're going to enjoy this. So while we're waiting on them to come on the air, do you have a review that is like the white whale, the elusive, you just can't get this review nailed down? Are you dealing with that at all?
Not a specific one, but let's say the first 5 years of computer role-play games are very difficult to find someone who is knowledgeable about to make a review. Because some games I play, like I can find a review, let's say, for a game I played some years ago, I replay it again, write a nice review, and okay. But older games that have a lot of history, let's say Eamon. Eamon is a text-only RPG from the 1980s that has a large community that made custom modules or mods for them back in the 80s. And I could write a review myself, but I would like to have someone from that community to the review. You know?
So it's more authentic, more comprehensive of a review.
Yes, and those games like, let's say, Forgotten Realms Unlimited Adventure, Bard Tales Construction Set, the Adventure Construction Set, all those games that have a community around them, I would like to have people from that community to help writing the review. Okay,
well, I think that's very cool. So and so people, they're still looking for volunteers to help write reviews. So if you're passionate about games, these computer role-playing games, and you think you might want to help out, go to crpgbook.wordpress.com or reach out to Felipe on Twitter. I mean, the links are on the show notes at shaneplays.com. But I've got somebody on the phone. I'm tickled to have on the phone. I get to talk with them some online through some mutual friends, including Matt Barton. But they actually asked a question, and this is a developer. This is a really, somebody who's been in the trenches since basically the beginning of computer role-playing games. But they have a couple of questions for you, Felipe. I'm going to introduce them now. So on the phone, for the first time on Shane Plays, tickled to have her, is Rebecca Berger Heineman, who was involved, among other things, in the Bard's Tale and Dragon Wars. So, Felipe, I don't know if you've ever had a chance to talk to Berger Heineman before, but Becky, this is Felipe, and Felipe, this is Becky's. Welcome to the show, Becky.
Hi, Felipe. Hi, Sean. I'm glad to be on the show. Felipe, I'll introduce myself. I'm the one who created Bard's Tale 3 and Dragon Wars.
Yes, I heard of you. It's an honor to speak.
Yeah, I took a look at your draft, and I noticed that you had an article there about Bard's Tale, but then you mentioned Bard's Tale 3, but you didn't mention my name. Aww.
I'm sorry, I have a very tight space, and I didn't write that review.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
So we have minor. Now, when she sent me this message, I want to say it had a smiley face on it. Okay, so she's, we don't have major drama here. So, but yeah, I heard Felipe saying he's, a second ago, he's basically honored to talk with you. So, I really appreciate you calling in, Becky. Now, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's like when I called in, I started hearing you talking about the Emon adventures. Yeah, I was part of that community, playing games and writing some of the scenarios for it. I also know a person who made a game called Lightning Emon, where he was taking the Emon games and compiling with an Applesoft compiler to make them run faster. But, I totally remember that those adventure games.
Well, Becky, do you think that you would have some time or know somebody who might be able to contribute some reviews to the project for that community?
I was more of a contributor but in that community, but I can go and ask around. To give you an idea, the people who really know is people in the Apple II community, considering Emon was really almost exclusively Apple II, since the engine was all written in AppleSoft BASIC.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I love talking to Becky and listening to her talk because she can spin yarns and it's like sitting around and, she knows this stuff inside and out. I'd love to have you on the show sometime, Becky, and just talk to you about all the different stuff you've been in. Now, but were you also saying that is there a Dragon Wars review in the project right now, or were you saying that
No.
Okay, there's not. All right.
Not right now, but it is on the list of reviews that need to be done. And speaking about Bard's Tale, I think I'm going to have to update that review soon because of the remastered version, right? That is coming together with Bard's Tale 4.
Yeah, it's already in beta.
Looking forward to that.
Setting it up. But to give you an idea, it's got some differences only in the fact that it's based on my Bard's Tale 3 engine. And what I did is I took the data for Bard's Tale 1 and 2 and added it to this engine so that you can actually play any one of the 3 games with your party. So you could switch from game to game.
Oh, that's great. I remember people were trying to do a mod for Bard's Tale construction set so they could do the same. Very nice to see that.
Yeah, it's very cool. So, and you may or may not be able to speak to this, but as long as you're on the phone, do we have any idea of when the Bard's Tale Remastered will come out of beta?
We're just finishing last minute bugs. Our biggest problem is that it's with slow iterations working within Exile, but it's and all In Exile does is they're just approving and doing some playtesting. That's it. All development's being done by Old School. In fact, In Exile has pretty much nothing to do with the remastered version.
Right, and so just so people know, Old School is your studio.
Yes.
Right, and if people don't know, Becky not only was involved with Bard's Tale. You did Battle Chess. You did the original Battle Chess, which just blows my mind.
One of the programmers on Battle Chess.
Oh, okay. I thought that.
Yes, I was one of the creators.
Well, now under Old School, you're reissuing it under Old School, right?
Well, the new version, yes, we did that.
Okay, I thought so.
When you said about the creation, it was back in 1989. That was Jay Patel, myself. I think. I forgot his name.
Yeah, well, we can research it.
Michael Coral. That's it, Michael Coral. But we all worked on different aspects of it, putting it all together. Some of us made tools, some of us made the graphics and stuff. Because remember, at that time, I was focusing really on Dragon Wars and the Neuromancer. But I was writing so many games back then. It was hilarious. But the new remastered, that was my game. It's called Battle Chess Game of Kings. It's out on Steam. It was released about a year and a half ago.
Does that sound about right? Yeah, I think so. I love Battle Chess. I just think it's one of the coolest games ever. Well, listen, I'm totally looking forward to playing your Bard's Tale Remastered. In fact, I was playing through Bard's Tale again, and when I heard that, I just stopped. I was like, I'm going to wait for the remaster. So there's a lot of people really looking forward to that, Becky. I'm going to have to wrap up the show here with Felipe. We got about 2 or 3 minutes left. I super appreciate you calling in. I would love to have you on for a show sometime if you're.
I just been waiting for an invite.
Okay, well, I thought I'd invited you before.
Never invited me, so how could I say yes or no?
Oh, I thought I had. I am so sorry. I thought I had. Consider this an official groveling invite. I would love to have you on my show. So I'll reach out to you.
Offline we'll go.
Yeah, I'll reach out to you online, and if you know of anybody who might want to help contribute to the CRPG book project, I will definitely pass that along to Felipe, where I can put you on touch directly. Okay, I'll have you on. I've got some opening in July if you want to come on.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you, Becky.
Okay, you're welcome. And
right.
Nice to meet you, Felipe.
Thank you. The same.
All right. So how's that for a surprise, Felipe?
Yeah, very surprising. You were talking about battle chess, but I have a picture, me, my dad, and the Amiga, and one of the few games that we had was the battle chess.
Yeah, I loved battle chess. I never actually finished a game. I wanted to get the different pieces fighting to see the different animations, right? Yeah.
It was mind-blowing in the 80s.
It really was. That was one of the show-off games of the Amiga. Well, we've got literally 2 minutes left here. Radio time goes so quick. Thanks so much for being on. What is the best way, if people want to contact you to learn more about this project or to help out or whatever, what's the best way for people to contact you?
They can contact me either by Twitter on Felipe Pepe, or by email directly on CRPGbook at, how do you call that little A? I never spoke in English.
How do you call, hold on a second, my producer said something I didn't hear. What did you just ask, Felipe?
How do you call that little A on the emails in English?
Oh, the at, we just call it the at sign, at symbol.
Okay, so at CRPGbook at gmail.com.
Okay, crpgbook.gmail.com. And do you have any idea in your mind of when the final online version will be finished? I know you may do. And if you do a Kickstarter, you let me know, because I will help you promote the heck out of that, and I will contribute to it. But what do you have any idea when the book might actually finish?
Next year. I can't promise a specific date, but 2017.
Okay. Well, Felipe, I salute you. It's people like you and the people that are helping you with this project, and Matt Barton and the RPG Codex and the CRPG Addict, all those folks, Chris Avalone, Tim, that take this beyond just being a toy and into something that just really we enjoy life more. And I thank you so much, because I can't tell you how much. So when I'm like looking for information on something and I find a project like yours, how helpful it is. So, and good luck in Japan. Let's stay in touch. Thanks so much again for being on.
Thank you for the invite.
Yeah, you are more than welcome. All right, folks, that's going to wrap it for this week. Next week, we're going to have Alec Peters of Star Trek Axanar on. And they still have their lawsuit going on, even though it looks like it might wrap amicably. Shane Plays Geek Talk Radio.